Hey Soul Family, it's Crystal Demon Slayer 144. I was going to talk about a topic and it took me forever. I just walked the dog. Thank goodness I'm still getting over COVID, so I had enough energy to walk the dog, which is good. And I sat down here and I was going to talk about a topic. And it took me forever to get in here. I finally got in here, got comfortable, got everything the way I wanted it. Let me pull this down a little bit because my sister said it's too much ceiling. Okay. Anyway, well, it's probably still too much ceiling. Hope not. Anyway, so I finally get in here, I get on my cozy pajama top, which you will often see me in because this is my mom's pajama top that she used to wear, and she passed, and every time when I wear it I feel like she's hugging me. So yeah, so this is, you'll often see me in this. It's kind of like a warm shawl. Anyway, so I start shooting the video and then my nose starts itching. And I'm like, oh, allergies, Then I started sneezing. And I said, okay, Spirit don't want me to talk about that. So I wait and I said, okay, so what does Spirit want me to talk about? What do you want me to talk about? What do you want me to ask? So I just wait. Out of the blue, I got this idea. Talk about witchcraft. I'm like, talk about witchcraft? Oh, all right. Why not? So, what do I know about witchcraft? I know that ever since I was little, I have loved witches. I've loved them. Not the scary kind, but like, Wizard of Oz, Glinda the Good, or Galinda. I don't know how you say her name. I loved magic. I've always loved magic. I always prayed when I was a little girl. I want to, God, can you give me a magical life? I want to do magic. Never the tricks like a magician does, but like real magic, like Bewitched. Now, a lot of you are too young to know what the show Bewitched is, but Google it. And any witch, when I was little, I would get books on the little witch and all stuff. I just loved it. And then when I got older, I would read about, the Salem witch trials and how that happened. And I was like, ooh, patriarchy at its finest. Just a horrible time in history, in my opinion. Anyway, all the way up to and I never liked the bad witches like in Snow White or any of the bad. There was never a connection to them, but just always the good witches. Loved it. Even when I became an adult, I loved what's the name of that movie that had Sandra Bullock in it, and I am so horrible with names. The beautiful redhead woman who was married to Tom Cruise. I cannot think of her name. But what was it called? And I can't even think of the name of the movie. Practical Magic. That was the name of the movie, Practical Magic. Love that movie. Just anything like that. Loved it. And so as I got older, I was like, oh, all the way to Harry Potter. Harry Potter, I bought the whole series, looked at all the movies. I was the first one in the theaters. Loved it. And there was always something in me that said, why can't I have a magical life? Why can't I do stuff like that? And of course, being an adult, that's all make-believe. But that didn't stop me from buying books on magic. like, I don't know, like the Golden Dawn, and I read about Aleister Crowley and all the high magic and all that, but that was way above my pay grade. I couldn't really understand it, and and then of course when you get into that quote unquote high magic, they deal with how to summon demons and how to do all this stuff, but then, which I was never interested in because that was always really scary to me. Quite interesting, but scary. But I liked how they would talk about, summoning the cone of magic and circle of protection and how to use the pentagram, and just, that was always really interesting to me. And then later on, my mom got into the African religion called Ifa, and she went to Togo in Africa and was initiated under Olokun, but they couldn't, for some reason, they couldn't initiate her under Olokun here because they said it was too big. So she had to go to Africa to initiate under Olokun. And I followed under her footsteps. So I always followed my mom, because my mom back in the day, she would read about Helen Blavatsky and, of course, the Golden Dawn and Rosicrucians, and my mom was always into that. She was always into what they call like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. My mom was the first one back in the early 70s who said, there's a secret society that is really in control of everything, and part of that secret society actually like had the Kennedys killed and Martin Luther King. I mean, all that. And I was like, whoa, So my mom was all into that. So she got initiated into Ifa, and I followed in her footsteps. First, I didn't really care about the religion. I couldn't really understand it because we had been Christian first. I mean, like Baptist. Okay. And as a little girl, I took that so seriously. I loved Jesus, anything Jesus, I loved it. I actually wanted to be a nun. That was the first thing I ever wanted to be, was a nun. I loved all the saints, just anything dealing with God and Christ and the angels, and I'm your girl. And of course, I was always loving fairies and elves, and So then I think I was a teenager. I wasn't an adult at that point, but as a teenager, when my mom initiated into Ifa, I said, well, let me look at it. I didn't really understand it, but then, so I was dibbling and dabbling in and out of it, not initiating, just kind of following her, just seeing what she did and what it did for her. So probably when I became an adult, I think maybe I was in my 30s, I initiated into Santeria. And my godparents were on the East Coast. So I'd have to fly from the West Coast to the East Coast, and we did the big ceremony. And in our in our house, we call it Ile, since my godparents it was interesting because my godparents were from Mexico, right? Not Puerto Rican, not Cuban, not African, Mexican. I had never heard of such a thing, but they were. Anyway, but they were also, in addition to Santeros, they were Paleros. So in this Ile, when you initiated under Santeria, you also had to initiate into Palo. So I initiated into Santeria, and then I was scratched as a Palero under Siete Rayos. That was who under Palo, who was, they call it on top of your head, on your head. So that Orisha, who in Santerio is Shango, who I initiated under. So basically I would be called a daughter of Shango. So then of course my child initiated under Ogun, and God, some I cannot remember the Palo name for Ogun. I can't remember. Like I say, I'm so bad at names, and it was so long ago. It'll probably come to me. But anyway, so we initiated, and while I was initiated under Santeria and Palo, and then years later I initiated under Ifa. So 3 initiations, right? Now, while I would go see my godparents, which wasn't often because, such a long way and it was pretty expensive. While I was on the East Coast, I also worked in my godparents' botanica. And while I worked there, making different remedies for whatever the customers needed them for, there would be primarily women and some gay men, not too many straight men, but primarily women and gay men, who would come in and want a love spell. And so they would come in and they would get certain candles and certain herbs and things like that. And that's cool. And my godmother was just, she was the pro at all that. My godfather did the bigger stuff. Like he did mostly the palo, and it was major stuff. Like he had people coming from cartels who needed protection, and he would do it, and they kept coming back, and he was very powerful. And my godmother too, but she would do most of the love spells, and even breaking up people if that's what they wanted. Like if some person came in and said, I want this man and I want him to leave his wife because I want to be with him. If she had the money, then my godmother would be like, okay, bring me all kind of stuff, whatever it is, even like menstrual fluids, semen, sweat, hair, whatever, right? Now, I was a bit puzzled because I was like, how can, first of all, okay, so I have never believed that you can control somebody and make them love you and make them leave their family. Because number one, you're making them do something that's against their will. Because if they wanted to be with you, they would be with you anyway. That's always my belief. And the second thing, I was like, okay, so, talking to my madrina, I'm like, why would you do something like that? Because in my opinion, if you do something like that, then to me, that's bad karma. Making somebody do something against their will. Because, okay, so you're going to do a spell or some procedure to take this person away from the person they want to be with so they can be with the person who paid you. Then what about that person they left? And what about their family? To me, that's bad karma. And which of course in the Witch's Creed is like, anywhere from 3 to 10 times bad karma you're going to get for doing, in my opinion, something like that. And so my madrina was just kind of like, hey, they pay the money, I do the spell. Same thing with my godfather. They pay the money, I do the spell. And I just couldn't get down with that. I could not, never, ever get down with that. I would never force someone to do something against their will. And then, in my opinion, and it's something I always thought, like, okay, so now you force somebody to do something against their will. And now they're going to be with somebody else who just happened to have enough money to pay you to do this. Is that really going to last? I mean, I just couldn't see it. It just, to me, was so counterintuitive. Like, you know, how could God allow something like that to happen? But the majority of people who came into our shop, our botanica, these are the spells they wanted. Was the love spells. And then after that, it would be like, you know, somebody did me wrong. I want a spell to get back at them, or I need protection from somebody, or what was the other one that was big? Money spells. Money spells. Big time. Money spells. Win the lotto. Oh, somebody owes me money. I need you to make them give it to me. Stuff like that. So I would be more involved with, say, I was more interested because my madrina wanted to teach me how to do this. I would take no part in making somebody do something they didn't want. But as far as like, oh, you want more prosperity in your life, you want more money, you want love, but not taking somebody away from somebody or anything like that, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So I started wondering. I became curious. I was like, you know, my belief is that that's evil to do a spell to make somebody do something they don't want to do. But I saw people who had, my cat meowing. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. What? Are you coming in or no? Okay, I'm shutting the door. All right. So I was like, why does this happen? Because I saw people who came back and said, oh, Madrina, thank you so much. And primarily they were speaking in Puerto Rican. There was a lot of Puerto Rican, a lot of Dominican, a lot of Haitian. Most of the gay men who came in there were white. I couldn't even believe that. And so my mother, you know what she would tell me, she would be like, yeah, they were just thanking me because the spell worked. She called them recipes, because the recipe worked, you know, the recipe worked, and they were just thanking me. And I mean, they paid her a boatload of money. So I questioned it. I was like, how could God allow something like this to happen? Like, and so I asked my madrina, and she said, you know what? I said, anyway, she was like, you know what? She says, usually the reason these spells work is because the person, she said, if they don't have any holes in them, then it's harder for the spell, usually won't work, or it'll be harder. But if they have holes in them, then the spell is more likely to have some sort of effect. And I'm like, holes? What do you mean? And she was like, you know, if they have real low self-esteem, or they're depressed, or full of anxiety, or something that just tears down their inner strength. She said, yeah, usually. So for instance, if they have, she said, like holes in their aura, she says it'll work. Like if their will isn't that strong, she said, it usually works. I said, oh, okay. And sure enough, I saw evidence of things like that working. Now, I have never, nor will I ever, do a spell on anybody. I have not, and I would never do it. I still don't believe in it. Do a spell to make somebody do something they don't want to do. I have done protection spells. I have, people felt like they needed it. I've done that. And as I said before, I've done prosperity spells. And I tell you, in the beginning, I would, now, in these religions, there's quite a bit of animal sacrifice. Primarily birds. Sometimes a four-legged, if it's something big, in my experience. I mean, I even, right before I stopped doing, stop officially being in these religions, because one day God told me, Spirit told me, okay, you're done. You don't need to be in these religions anymore. I could not believe it, because I had just received the knife. There's a ritual, like, for instance, so in Ifa, you have a Babalao who's like the head person. In Santeria, you have the Santeros, who are the head person, like the head priest, or the Ianifa, the female head priestess. And then for Palo, you have a Polero or a Polera, the head person in the Ile, in the house. And so I couldn't believe it that I had gotten this inner message like, okay, you're done with all that. I was like, no, that can't be, because that can't be. So I went to my Babalao, and, he took the chain, he did the reading. He was like, because first he said, no way, you're not done. I mean, I that must have been like some other entity or spirit or demon or something that's telling you that. And I'm like, well, I need a reading just to make sure. So, he took the chain, he said, oh, he said, Elegua, says, yeah, you're done. You can leave the religion with blessings, alafia, with blessings. I was like, wow. So he said, take your otans, which are the rocks. It's a long story, but the stones that embody the energy of the Orisha, who are the natural life force, the forces of nature that are these gods that we serve, who serve us and we serve them. He said, yeah, take Obatala to the mountain, or the highest place you could find. Take Elegua to the forest. Take Yamanya, these are names of the Orishas, Yamanya to the ocean, and Oshun to the river, because these are their homes, Take Ochosi here to the forest. Who else did I have? Now, which is odd, they told me to keep Olokun, and also I have my mom's Olokun. Now, Olokuns, they said they stay with me, but the rest of them are like, take them all these different places and let them go home. I was like, whoa, okay. So that was interesting, because before I got that reading, I just received the knife. The reading said that I'm to have the knife because now I'm to sacrifice the animals. And but at that point it was like, I'm done. And I never wanted to do it, because I never liked that was the worst part for me, was the sacrificing of animals. It was the worst part. And so now, I got a reading that, months and months ago, that I was supposed to get the knife. So I went through the ceremony to get the knife. Now I can sacrifice humanely, because it's all done humanely, of course, humanely sacrifice these animals. And if there was no Oksogbo or any Oksogbo like curse or bad energy around the animals that you sacrifice, you could usually eat them. But if there's Oksogbo, then you have to get rid of them after you do the sacrifice. So anyway, but I never got to sacrifice any animals, thank goodness, because right after I got the knife, I got the message, you're done with these religions, you're done. So I said, oh, wow, okay, all right. So that was into that. And I was like, so if I'm done with these religions, what am I supposed to do for worship? What am I supposed to do? And I was told, it's all inside of you. Look inside of you. It all come from you. You will have I was told in the reading, you will have direct connect from, okay, what was it? From the highest of the high. Hard to believe for me, but I was like, okay. And so as time went on, I started getting these downloads. I started getting these ideas that just didn't feel like they were coming from me. But one of the things that I got, it was a lot of ideas, but one of the things I got was, you don't need to do spells and offerings or sacrifices or anything like that to get what you want or to be in favor of the Most High. You don't have to do that. I was told that to be in alignment, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I've gotten so many readings when I was in Santeria and Ifa, Apollo. I got so many readings from the Orishas that told me stuff that just blew my mind because it was real. And it was always, you bring an offering of fruit or whatever the Orisha wanted and, do this, and this, and, you'll be in alignment. And it all seemed to work. It all worked. But this time I was told, you don't need to do any of that. Just listen to your intuition. Just listen to your intuition. Listen to your inner voice. And it was hard at first because I never believed in me, because my thought was, look, if my inner voice could really bring about all that, then how come I've had such a hard life that I've had? How come things didn't really work until, I did do these rituals and prayed to the Orishas and all that. And something said, well, that was part of your journey and your path, but you don't need that anymore. I was like, okay. So I started listening to that voice. And I was told that, look, if you want to manifest something, for instance, be very clear on what you desire. Be very clear on what you want, what you desire. Like a strong desire, like I really want this, and this is something that never goes away and it always returns, and every time I think about it, it makes me feel amazing. And watch for signs, like watch for sensations in your body that makes you feel like the best. And so an example of that is one day I went to the city. I was just in a city for a nearby city. And I was walking through it and I was like, wow, I love this city. This is, because I got that feeling, that tingly, amazing feeling, like a Kundalini inner orgasm that started here and just rose up and popped out of my head. And I didn't get that feeling often, but every time I got that feeling, it was always something special. And so I was walking through the city and I said, something said, but it's always in my voice. Something said, something said, one day you're going to work here. And I said to myself, like, I'm going to work here one day. 6 months later, I was working there. Didn't plan it. It just happened. So usually when I desire something, I want something like that, I'll get this strong feeling. It doesn't have to exactly be that tingly feeling, but it'll be so strong. And so I was told, okay, so take that and claim it. Your intent. I want this. I want this. State it to the Most High. State it to myself. I know, and be very clear. I want this thing, whatever it is. Then I was told, have the faith that you're going to get it. Have the faith. And what does that look like? An example would be, okay, so if I go on Amazon and I'm just using Amazon or Etsy. Let's say Etsy. If I go on Etsy and I order a deck of tarot cards, because I love tarot cards. I love tarot. I know that once I order it, it's coming. I know it. I know that it's going to arrive, say within 5 days or a week or something like that. And so I don't worry about it. I'm not all like, oh my God, when's it coming? Or is it coming? I don't doubt it. I know it's coming. And I'm so sure that what I ordered from Etsy is coming that I order it and I forget about it. And then when it arrives, which it always does, I love it. It's like a Christmas gift, a birthday gift all the time. You know, you finally get it and then you open it and, you know, it's great. So that's what I mean by faith. Once you put your order in, okay, I want this, you know, God, source, higher being, this is what I want. Bring me this or better. And that's something I have to, okay, I'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so that's the faith. And then the second part, that's the intent is the first part, faith, and then the third part is trust. Now, what do I mean by trust? When I say trust, know that you're going to get it, but don't start thinking about, well, wait a minute, how is it going to come? Who's going to bring it? Exactly what day is it going to be? Is it going to come? Oh, now I don't know. Wait a minute. None of that, because as soon as you start putting those thoughts in, because it's coming, you're manifesting it from whatever dimension it exists on already before it materialized. So your faith and your trust that it will come in the most correct, most perfect way, that is what helps fuel that. You know, it's probably in the quantum physics atmosphere or something, but that atmosphere is source. That atmosphere you have nothing to do with. You trust source to bring it to you. All right. Now, the little caveat to that is, okay, so for instance, let's say you want true love. I want true love. I want true love. You know, I imagine it. I daydream about it, which is part of the magic. This is the magic, because our lives are magical. We have never been told that as reality. It's always in a movie or a song or something that, oh, well, that's entertaining. But we don't take it to heart that this is our true power as co-creators. And of course, there's a reason why that ancient true knowledge was taken away from us, which that's another video. But needless to say, that is our true magical power. To imagine it, to think about it, not in an anxious way, like, well, when is it going to come? You know, when is, you know, let's say I use myself as an example. Let's say if I put that out there, I want true love, I want my twin flame or soulmate or, you know, whatever, like the truest love I can have, like my Prince Charming. You know, people tell you there's no such thing as Prince Charming. Why not? Why not? There's a such thing as a Prince Charming if that's your intent and your desire. Yes, there is. For you, yes, there is. But where we kind of sell ourselves short is we can say, well, I want him to be this particular person. Well, maybe your true Prince Charming is not that particular person. Maybe it's somebody else. Or I want him to look like this, this, and this, and this. Okay, that's cool. But if you want him to look like this, this, and this, if he looks like this and this, but not that, are you going to reject that person? In my experience, it's better to leave the very minute details to spirit, because spirit will always bring you what you want, if not better. And sometimes better is not exactly what you asked for, but it's better because you don't know everything. But that divine intelligence knows everything. So that divine intelligence knows what's best for you. It's best not to put conditions on it, because when we put conditions on what we want, well, it's got to be this person, or it's got to be this exact thing, exactly this way. Well, then that's our ego trying to control a divine process. And that's not how you co-create. That's truly not how you co-create. Now, there are some people who lots of people, most people, matter of fact, what we've been taught, if you want to get what you want, you got to go out there and make it happen. And sure enough, that has worked. But I'm telling you, it does not have to be that hard. Me personally, I like doing it the magical way because I love magic. And this is something that is our birthright that we have the power to do. We are co-creators with the divine, with spirit, with nature, with all there is. We are co-creators. So really, all we have to do, put your intent, your desire, have that faith, and have that trust. And leave all the details to the divine. How it's going to get to you, when it's going to get to you, even exactly what, because you don't know everything. And what if the divine brings to you better than what you asked for? I would hate to think that, oh, my mind was here thinking this was what was best for me, and because I was so stuck on this, I didn't even know that this existed. I didn't even know I could have this. But I didn't leave it to spirit. So, but see, in leaving it to spirit, I get this. So that is the way to do it. So here's what I'm inviting you to do now. I have co-created quite a few things. I have a whole new order of things I have co-created. I've gotten everything that I wanted when I was at a certain level in my life. I have achieved that. Now I want different things. Now, some of the things that I want, I'm not going to say, because if I did say it to anybody, they would be like, I mean, some people wish you well, and some people wish you well thinking, how she thinks she gonna get that? What makes her think she deserves that? Or she's delusional. Some people even tell you that's not realistic. Like, oh my God, what's this black guy, Kevin Smith or Kevin Stevens? Some guy, Kenneth, I don't know I can't remember his name. My brother is all over this guy. Knew him when he first started doing videos. He used to be, I think, in Arkansas, black guy, young black guy. And I think my brother told me he used to work in a Nordstrom's and did, when he started doing his videos, he was doing men's, telling men how to dress and stuff like that and giving advice. And eventually one way or another, he blew up and became kind of a household name. And then he started telling women like, well, if you're fat or don't look a certain way or too old or got kids, you want this millionaire of a man or, this gorgeous, handsome man, you can't have that. Who do you think you are? You're not in that level. You're not on that level. You're not in that class, or you're not good enough. So, if you've got flaws, you need to look at the plumber next door, or you need to lower your sights to a man you really can have. I don't believe that. Now, don't get me wrong. Everything is energy. So if you put out that you want a certain type of man, and I'm just using, because it's an easy thing to give an example for. So you want a certain type of man. What I believe is absolutely put your full order in, the type of man you want or the type of woman you want. Put that full order in, all right? Your intent, your faith, and the trust you're going to get it. Now, normally what the divine does is say, okay, you want that type? Okay, now for you to get that type of person, you need to match energy so you can, so you can have that magnetism to attract that type of person. Or, but right now you're not vibrating on that frequency. So what can we do to have you vibrate on that frequency? So then the divine starts bringing you situations, life situations that will get you out of your comfort zone. And as you tackle each one of these situations, problems, challenges, whatever, you get these epiphanies, insights. You eventually evolve and you raise your frequency to the level where you can attract that type of person. And not only do you attract them, but it will work. Okay? But you have to be willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, then you may not achieve that level of frequency. So yeah, you may not get that. And then you'll be like, oh, this self-manifestation didn't work. Well, you didn't do that work. Because just like people tell you, oh, if you want, just like that guy, Kenneth Samuel, I can't think of his name. Somebody in the comments, put his name down, please. And if my brother's watching, put his name down. He's saying, okay, you have to do, if you don't do the work to make yourself alluring to this type of guy, you're not going to get him. So in a way, he's telling the truth. But what I'm saying is, it's not like, oh, you want this, so you have to lose 100 pounds and you have to go to the gym, and within yourself you may feel like doing that, but I'm saying it has to be on an energy level, on a frequency level, and the divine will bring every situation you need so that you can raise your energy level. Okay, now, so that's the one thing. The second thing is, don't tell everybody what you manifested, because people's negative energy, especially if they say, well, who do you think you are? You're too old, you're too fat, you're too this, or you're too that. How do you think what man is gonna want, or what woman's gonna want somebody with 5 kids, blah, 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 blah. Well, if that hooks you, and there's something in your lack of self-esteem, self-worth, or whatever that goes, just anything that goes, well, that might be true. Yeah, well, then what that person said, that energy is going to hit a hole, whatever that hole is in you, like my madrina was talking about, that hole, and it's going to bring your vibration down, your frequency down, and it will block, not forever, hopefully, but it will block the good work that you're trying to do. It'll block the energy level that is slowly but surely bringing what you want. It'll block it, and you start believing it. So don't tell anybody what you manifested. Just manifest it, tend it like a garden. You take care of it until you see the shoots rise up, and you just keep taking care of it. And once you get ready to harvest, then you can tell people about it. But you don't want people putting their negative energy, kind of like, that energy they call the evil eye, because, people, you start telling people what you want, people will even start reflecting on, well, how does she think she can have it? How does he think, well, I don't have it? Envy, jealousy. No, you keep it to yourself. So as I said, there's some things I'm manifesting right now that I will not speak of until it comes to fruition. Now, one thing I will speak of, because I want you to see through me that this really does work. Now, I started doing these videos. Spirit told me to quit my job. I just started it, and Spirit said, you need to quit because you need to do this. And I just took a leap of faith, and I quit my job, and I started, then after a while, Spirit said, okay, it's time for you to start doing these videos. No knowledge of how to do these videos or nothing. And I didn't want to because I don't like being on film. But Spirit said do it, so I said, okay, I'm do it. Now, Spirit told me, you don't have to worry about how to do it. Just jump on there and do it. So this is probably one video I took down, but so this is probably my 11th or 12th video. And I've looked, not often, but I've looked and I was like, oh my God, there's no likes, or there's no comments, or there's no, and so I said, you know what? I am going to use this as a tool to show how manifestation exists. So my sister, she was like, I'm gonna start doing. I've started doing podcasts, and I have engineers, and I have all these people who are experts who could help you do yours. And first, I took the information. I took the number. She gave me the number of the people who help her. And and something said, Spirit said, you don't need that. You don't need that. You co-create through me how to do this. I said, okay, so that's the one I'm going to tell you about. That is what I'm co-creating, is more because I want to spread more of what I know, because that's what the divine wants me to do. And so I'm counting on the divine through co-creation for more people to see the videos, for it to spread worldwide, if that's what the divine wants. I don't worry about it. I just give it to the divine, because the right people will hear the message in these videos and it will spread accordingly. So that is how I'm co-creating. So if you stick with me so you can see the magic happen, there you go. All right. So that is my message for today. If you like what you heard, or if any of it resonated, please hit the like, subscribe, notification, and we'll talk to you later. Until next time.